high performance, as you go up the levels, each new level has a different visual demand. And there seems to be this asteroid field between 4.0 and 4.5, where you start getting into the 4.5 range, the ball's coming a lot faster. And with a much wider variety of spins,
and it always comes back. It always comes back. That was my biggest challenge when I moved from 4.0 to 4.5. Things that were winners at 4.0, you know, I would hit a ball and think, okay, the point's over. 4.5.
If this whole talk goes like this, we got a winner on our hands, because that's a great thing for people to latch onto, because then the new visual demand is, how do you stay mentally with it so that you can see the ball?
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, I've seen this a lot of times, especially with even, you know, really top juniors. You know, they hit what they thought was the winner. They mentally checked out. You know, they're ready to clap for themselves, and then the other kid goes and gets a racket on it, and it's like startled back to reality.
Yeah.
I can't believe they got it back. Now you have an inability to really see the ball, and then I don't know how many times I've seen an error on the next shot by the person who thought we were going to be hitting a winner.
Well, and you are playing catch up the rest of the point. Once you've checked out because you think you've hit the winner, now you have to bring yourself back in a split second to that point and continue working the point, right? And as you said, a lot of times, right. And so what happens is you produce the error, you lose the point, and then you're kicking yourself because you're like, well, of course I'm at a level where the other person on the court with me is going to get the ball back. They're just as fast as I am. They're just as skilled as I am.
Yeah.
And we do see that a lot in the juniors. And I want to keep this conversation focused around the juniors because parenting cases. But, you know, I think it's one of those lessons that our kids learn oftentimes on the job training, because as they continue to level up in the game, they learn the hard way a lot of times that next level, it's not just that the strokes are prettier or that the other person is constructing points better. It's that more balls are coming back.
Yeah, again, a great point. This partially explains why people who don't have the prettiest game are able to win a ton of matches. I was not the most fluid or beautiful basketball player in my life, and people really were frustrated about my ability to make shots from very weird positions and off balance and all that. And part of that was a visual thing as well. It's kind of gratifying to be that person who can win matches even though your game doesn't pass the ice skating beauty competition.
Well, it's the whole Brad Gilbert thing, right? Winning ugly. So it doesn't really matter if it's pretty or ugly. If you get the W, you get the W.
But no, visual skills are huge. Anyway, go on.
But for juniors and who are on that developmental pathway, winning ugly isn't really what we want them to do. We want them to continue to develop proper technique, proper movement, and yes, proper visual training, so that as they move up through the age groups and get to the place where they're going through college recruiting or they're considering turning pro, that their games are positioned for success at that level, right?
Well, yes, and absolutely, visual skills will facilitate better technique. It was Lenny Schloss who shared that 8 out of 10 mishits are caused by poor vision of the ball.
And so let's dig into that. What does that mean? What does visual training mean?
Yeah. Well, first I wanted to tell a story about a tournament experience that I had. Because it's more than just a performance thing. You could actually be saving somebody's tennis life, so to speak. All right. So
that sounds so dramatic.
Well, it kind of is. And
Yeah,
I mean, and I don't think this is overly dramatic, because when you hear the story, you're going to know why I said that. I used to run a lot of tournaments. I've run like 10 or 12 tournaments a year. I've seen thousands of junior matches, in my life and all that. So I'm watching this kid play. I'm keeping an eye on everything, and he's making some bad calls. And then I'm looking at his dad, and his dad's from the Balkans, right? And he's, gruff, and he's, very, he's a macho guy, right? And a little intimidating, I have to say. I mean, his physical presence is very masculine man, right? Right. So anyway, so I'm watching all this, and the kid makes a bad call, and I kind of see the dad kind of wince because he saw his kid make a bad call. And then, so I'm watching the kid, and I'm like, he's not doing the normal I'm a cheater behaviors, because here, one thing that cheaters do is after they make a bad call, they go like this. They turn into a robot that must avoid contact with all spectators.
Yeah.
You've seen that a million times, right? So right. There's this milieu of behaviors that the cheater does, right? And so this kid had no guile, and I'm like, what's going on here? And so he made eight mistakes in the match, and the other kid, maybe intimidated by the dad, didn't say a peep. And I'm looking over at the other kid like, come on, kid, ask for a lines person, right? But you can't tell him that,
right?
But I'm available. So anyway, so I'm watching this match to completion, and we get done, and the kid shakes hands and wins the match, and he's made 8 mistakes on calls. So I'm like, this is very curious, right? So I'm like, hey, sir, after this match, can I have a little chat with you and your family, right? And he's perplexed as what I'm going to talk to him about, right? So anyway, we get together.
And your role is tournament director at this point, right?
I'm tournament director.
Okay.
Yes.
Just clarifying. So, yeah.
Yes. No, it's important. It's an important distinction because as an official, if I was a USTA official at that time, there's no way I would have this conversation.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
It's out of bounds that way for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So they come off the court, and I'm like, sir, I was watching you watch your son, and your kid just seems like a really nice guy. You must be a terrific dad. I saw your body language when he made a couple of mistakes out there. It seemed to bother you, and I appreciate that. And now, do me a favor. Can you go take your son to go to the eye doctor? Because from watching him, I don't think he's a cheater. I just don't think he's seeing the ball well enough to call it out. But now, what's the normal way of doing things? Is to ignore that, go into denial of. There's a kid who makes bad calls. He's a cheater. He'll be labeled a cheater. He will not make friends easily. When the word gets out that he's a cheater. So he's just a kid that can't see that well. So anyway, a couple months later, I'm with my juniors at an event, and the dad comes running up to me very fast, and I'm kind of bracing for action because I don't know if I've offended him. No, I'm serious. He's coming up to me so fast. I'm like, am I under attack here? And he comes up to me and says, thank you. Aww. We went to the doctor. We got his eyes checked. Now he wears glasses and he wears contacts when he plays, and he's playing better. But that's a binary thing. That's a this way or that way. So not only was he going to be a better player because he got his vision figured out earlier rather than later, but now also he doesn't have to go through this stigma in life of being a kid who makes bad calls. I think really is the iconic story of why we really want to take vision so seriously. It's not just for a performance thing, but it's not necessarily really obvious that you need to get your eyes checked, but everyone probably should.
Well, I was going to say, that's really step 1 in all of this, is to make sure that you can see properly. The first step in this whole concept of visual training is to make sure that your child can see. And if they can't, let's get them some vision correction right off the bat. That's a generic, they're going to need it for school. They're going to need it for life. Let's take care of that. Yeah. But then once we make sure that they are seeing properly, then we get into more specifics of the actual visual training for tennis. So